So what's the year of the destruction of Jerusalem? 580. Oh, you're so good. I love it. Gospel today, I'm going to concentrate primarily on give to Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is God's. So obviously the underlying discussion is this: what's the place of our Christian faith in our lives, and what's the place of the civil government in our lives? Traditionally, we call that the separation of church and state, which is always a thorny issue. What does that really mean? For some people, the separation of church and state means that the state, the government, should not espouse or promote one special religion as the religion of that particular country. Separation of church and state. For others, it means that all of the politics of the government should be void of any values. That we should just be able to do whatever we want to do for the good of whomever, without any reference to the teachings of God or whatever higher power you want to espouse. Obviously, as Christians, we believe that it's our responsibility to bring the values of Jesus into the broader culture, into the politics of the country. Not to dominate it, but at least to let our voice be known in that regard. That's the obligation of us as Christians. Everything else has to be seen in that light. And there's a growing tendency in our culture to promote nationalism over any type of value system. And that's a struggle. If you study the civilizations down through the centuries, usually that was the cause of the downfall. When the government, the civil government, promoted itself rather than other values. Because it's the other values that penetrate the way we think. Now, there's a lawful place for government. It is the role of civil authority to protect the rights of all people. Equal housing should be available to all. Health care, protection of the unborn, or the poor, or the powerless, or the outcast, or the immigrant, or the elderly. It is the role of society, of civil government, to protect and promote the rights of everyone. Not just the powerful and the rich, but even the poorest and the lowliest. They always say that the sign of a good society is how we treat those who are the outcast and the poorest in our midst, our weakest in our midst. Now, fortunately, unfortunately, Jesus doesn't get into that. What is the role of government? But you know the gospel, to give to Caesar what is Caesar, but to God what is God's. And we heard in the first reading from the book of Isaiah about Cyrus that Isaiah said to him that I am the Lord and there is no other. And that's our challenge. Now, what happens when we come in conflict as Christians, the law of Christ, the laws of God, with the laws of society? That's the role of people sometimes who engage in civil disobedience. They're trying to promote a higher law. And for some people, that leads to martyrdom. They're giving their lives for a higher law, a higher cause. And those we call our martyrs. Many of them we call our saints because they had a vision of what was right. But it wasn't the vision of everybody else around them. And so they had to be executed. So in our society today, in our own personal lives, we are dealing with so many tensions that are going around us. Whether it's the COVID, or whether it's the elections, or whether it is our jobs and health and so on. And that promotes within us a great deal of anxiety, a great deal of fear, a great deal of conflict, a great deal of greed. And the goal then, teachings of Jesus today, is that we would renew our trust in God, not in ourselves, not in Caesar, but in God. And if you think about it, whether in any of those areas, our anxiety, our fears, our greed, our conflict, usually that comes from our own personal desires that we get what we want, even if it means that others cannot. And again, that's the wrong direction for us as Christians. We're challenged, but we have so much tension. And even in the gospel, I don't know if you caught that, the Pharisees linked up with the Herodians to oppose Jesus. They were diametrically opposed to each other. If you think there's tension in between the Republicans and the Democrats, this is much more. The Herodians were in league with Herod, with the Roman government, and they promoted that. The Pharisees were devoted to the Torah and to God, and they were totally opposed to the Romans. Can you see that tension? But they linked together to trap Jesus with the question, as you heard the gospel. Give to Caesar what is Caesar, but give to God what is God's. But ultimately, everything is God's. So in a solution to the anxieties and the conflicts and the fears and so on of our lives, we step back today and we look for a greater meaning for our lives, don't we? We want to know that we're going the right direction. And if you want to search your meaning in life, look for your gifts. Not the gifts of others, but our own personal gifts. How blessed we are. That gives us a meaning. And if you want then to take that meaning and give you purpose, then look how you can help others, how you can give that away for the benefit of others. That's the challenge. Caesar, God. If you want to know where you stand, look at your checkbook. Look at the ways we spend our money, because that will tell us who we're trying to follow, Caesar or God. Some of you might remember back in the good old days when you got your first coloring book, or maybe you got your first crayons or colored pencils. What was the rule that you were taught? Stay within the lines. Stay within the lines. And we like that. Whether or not we were taught that, or whether or not it comes from our human nature, we like to stay within the lines. It's simple, it's clear, it makes sense of life. Stay within the lines. We like to organize our days that way, don't we? We like to have a schedule, whether it's on paper or electronic, that we're going to do this and this at certain times. And we don't like to be chained. We don't like to be upset. We don't like somebody to adjust our schedule. Stay within the lines. Many people, when they eat their meals, they don't want their meat mixed up with the salad. And God forbid that the peas would get into the mashed potatoes. Stay within the lines. We run our lives that way. We run our beliefs that way. We have certain ideas and beliefs about our business. We have certain ideas and beliefs about politics. We have certain ideas and beliefs about morality. We have certain ideas and beliefs about our faith. And we don't like them to get mixed up. Stay within the lines. But then it comes to ourselves. I may have beliefs about your job, but when it comes to my job, then it might be a little different. Or my child, or my neighborhood. But I still want to stay within the lines, and I want you to stay in your lines. And our challenge today, as Jesus calls us as disciples, is to open up ourselves to his teachings. Dr. Martin Luther King said that those who are cowardice, they will always ask, is it safe? Those who want expediency will ask, is it popular? Those who want vanity will say, is it permissible? But those who want conscience will always say, is it right? We give to Caesar what is Caesar. We give to God what is God's. But everything is God's. So our challenge is, however we want to keep within the lines, what we do here cannot. It must go out and penetrate all avenues of our lives, all avenues of our thinking, that what we profess would be the way we live.
Thank you for watching this week's homily here at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton. We invite you to join us for liturgy any weekend that you might be in the area. You can contact us at mysaintelizabeth.com or on Facebook. Thank you very much.